Hello everyone, we are group 2 and our topic is boundaries of the self online. So, as technology continues to rapidly advance, individuals and society are profoundly changed. So, two are the tools used to measure this universe, and therefore our understanding of reality improves. Boundaries of self and reality online examines the idea that technological advances associated with the internet are moving us in multiple domains towards various edges. So these edges range from self to society to relationships and even to the very nature of reality. So boundaries are dissolving and we are redefining the elements of identity.
Why are boundaries online necessary? It's important to create limits in regards to who we follow, what sort of content we consume, and how much time we spend on the internet. First and foremost, they're necessary for our safety, as dangers like hacking and catfishing. It's imperative to set up barriers to protect our personal data and identity from strangers online, such as increasing our privacy settings or limiting the amount of personal information available on the internet. Aside from safety, boundaries are necessary for maintaining good mental health. Research has indicated that spending too much time on the internet can be linked to heightened anxiety, and that excessive social media usage could be linked with depression. A look into the science behind the manufacturing of our technology provides some insight into why this might be. Research has found that blue light on our cell phones and computers can stimulate our brain to create more dopamine, a chemical that is associated with motivation and feelings of happiness. This means that checking our phones more often or spending more time online makes us feel happier, while taking time away from technology can cause withdrawal symptoms and actually makes us depressed. What's more, the notifications we receive on our home screen from apps like Twitter or Instagram can cause us stress or distract us until we check them. So better use social media on your free time and limit yourselves into using it.
Cyber psychology architecture is a transdisciplinary model for understanding the psychological impact of different digital environments. Um, it is based on a deceptively simple premise, and cyberspace is a psychological space, yeah, a projection or extension of the individual and collective human mind. So, in psychology architecture, there are 8 dimensions. No, 8 dimensions. So, um, cyber psychology can examine the psychological architecture of digital space according to 8 different dimensions. Mm. Each one reflects computer-generated aspects of how particularly online environments operates, as well as how the human mind itself works. So, in the course of human evolution, cyberspace has become powerful because it allows unprecedented versatility in combining and manipulating these 8 dimensions, sometimes in unexpected ways with a high synergistic influence on the person world. So, so the first dimension in uh, psychology psychology architecture is the identity dimension. So this includes the possibilities for self presentation that occurs in a particular online environment, including how people consciously or unconsciously use or avoid them, as well as the types of healthy and pathological aspects of identity that they manifest in that environment. So in this dimension kay kanang ang kuan daw ang kita daw kung unsa daw atong self-presentation in that specific online environment. So, example kanang ikaw sa Facebook sad boy kay ka. kay na imong kuan friends mo sa imong iyab dito, pero sa Instagram kay kanang singa happy happy mong post nga na gay murag different ang kuan ba ang imong sa presentation in different online environment. So in the second dimension, the social dimension, um, this includes the possibilities for creating and managing and aborting relationships with individuals and groups, including accurate and distorted interpersonal perceptions, varying levels of intimacy. So, dali daw kay uh, includes kung ano siya kasi so dili daw sa social kay mo-create siya o I mean dili na mo-create manage ang mga kuan relationship with individuals, makakuha na kag mga friends, groups, no? So magdepende sa siya sa level of closeness ninyo yung intimacy. So in the third dimension, the interactive dimension, is this entails how well a person can understand or navigate and control a digital environment, including the sense of presence in that place. And also, daw sa third dimension, the interactive dimension, um, entails daw um, kung unsa ka may mo gamit mo navigate sa digital environment, kung yun sa napag-control ang digital environment, di ba? Ano siya dali sa interactive. So in fourth dimension is the text dimension. So this dimension is of online environment is the extent to which it relies on text communication. So the type of text communication, long, example, long to short forms, sabi sa, no, lahat na siya mag-rely sa text communication. And the psychological effects of communicating via text. So in the fifth dimension, the sensory dimension, this entails how the environment activates each of the five senses, especially the psychological effects of auditory and visual stimulation. So dito sa five, the sensory dimension is entails kung yun sa pag-activate sa digital environment yung mga five senses, diba? So in the next dimension, the sixth dimension, temporal dimension, is the use. It is the use and experience of time in the digital environment, including the synchronous and asynchronous spectrum. And the seventh dimension, the reality dimension, entails that how much a digital environment creates experience based on fantasy and how it is grounded in the familiarity of everyday world. So, dahil daw sa reality dimension, makuha daw ni mga ang digital environments create experiences, pero sa pinaka-base siya sa fantasy ra, dili sa true life. So mo to. So in the last dimension, the physical dimension, is this is how a digital environment involves the physical world in the corporeal body, including bodily sensation and movements, and that the impact of devices on one's physical surroundings. And yeah, pato hanggang sa sa yung impact sa digital environment sa atong physical, no? So These dimensions of psychology architecture serves as a useful conceptual framework for understanding different digital environments. No? So that's all. Thank you.
So, multiplayer video games can be great examples on how popular self-awareness game may improve these vital thinking skills. Understanding one's environment and learning the social convention of a player game can help players learn how to be part of a community, an important element of self-awareness. Example, video game help us, especially nowadays that we are in pandemic, we forcefully being kept at home to avoid getting the virus. And also for those people who are not into public places, they are using their time to go outside into playing video games. Giving time into this is to enjoy, to escape boredness and to widen their skills. But sometimes for some people, they using video game as an act as distractions from pain and psychological trauma. Video games can also help people who are dealing with mental disorders like anxiety, depression, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD, and lastly, post-traumatic stress disorder. And next, these are the benefits of video games. Kids who play video games may get a small boost to their reading skills, visual spatial skills, problem solving, social connections, imaginative play and creativity, video game careers, and lastly, the summary of my topic. Video games is very helpful to express our feelings. It widens our imaginations and to solve some problems because we think thoroughly about the game and we enjoy it. And also, it can help us escape boredom. However, I know a lot of us tend to just stay at home, consuming time into video games. But let me tell you honestly, it's all wrong. Because what's more enjoying is to explore outside with your parents, friends, or loved ones, making memories with them, enjoying even an ample time, going some places that can make your mind at peace, and lastly, giving ourselves some love we deserve and desire is what more important than playing video games. That could be all. Thank you.
Hi everyone, so this time I will be talking about avatars and the meaning behind them. So what is an avatar? So an avatar is a visual representation for a person for use in digital context. So in social media also, avatar refers to the profile picture that you have, or this image will represent you in the different social media platform. And for brands also, the best avatar that you can choose or that you can use is your logos, is your company's logo, I mean. So in today's generation, especially nga tech na kay nga generation, daghan nagsulputan ng mga technology, ng mga mobile gadgets, ang mga bot, mga iPhone 12 na nasa iPhone Pro Max o unsa pa na diha, dili na nato bag-o nga mabatian ang word nga avatar. So daghan tag mahuna-hunaan kung makabati ta ng word nga avatar. So example na ako mismo, I will hear the word avatar. So the first thing nga ako remember o ako mahinumduman kung makabati ko ng avatar is ang ako icon sa akong Netflix account. So when you sign in in your Netflix account, or bago pa lang ka sa Netflix, you will have your username, and ngadto mupili kag avatar ngadto, then ngadto nga mga avatar, ang imo pilian ng mga avatar is ang mga person, mga bida sa mga shows na naa sa Netflix. So the avatar nga imo pilion is the one that will represent you, especially if you have the shared account. So daghan man ang accounts mo kita basta mo sign in ka sa Netflix, so daghan nga accounts mo appear. So if you have this particular avatar, example ang imo gipili nga avatar is si Otis from Sex Education. So pagbutan nimo ngadto avatar ni Otis, I mean na ngadto ang picture ni Otis, then below is your username, or unsa example for me KD Mabulay, so mo na ako username, then my avatar is Otis. So pag press nimo ana, it will directly proceed sa imong account mismo or sa imong screen. So from there you will see your top choices of movies or the movies that you already watch. So mo na ang pasabot sa avatar. So the one that represents you. So nga dito sa Facebook, so ang avatar diha is your profile picture. So pag 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 search sa tao nimo like can't learn be mabulay, di man mo gawas ngadto ang kanang mga daghan kay nga photos nimo. Ang una mo gawas na to is your name and your profile picture. So your profile picture represents you. So mo na ang kuan mga mo na ang kanang ang avatar in profile picture. And then now sa pinagagamit nga app karon nga considerable nga pinagagamit nga app ang Google Meet or Google Classroom. So kung nato sa Google Classroom, if mag-off or mag-off atong camera, ang mugawas lamang is kung wala gay na updated imo profile picture, ang umugawas lang ang first letter sa imong username. Example pa rin ako, kentarnabulay1@gmail.com. So ang mugawas ana Keira. But if you updated your profile picture and mag-update imong avatar, ang mubutang ngadto sa imong imong cell mismo kay ang imong profile picture. So ang kana nga profile picture mo nang gitawag nga avatar. So ang kana nga avatar mo represent na nimo sa kadto nga meeting, sa kadto nga klase. If mag-off cam ka, pero if mag-on cam ka, ang imong gid self may makita. If mag-off cam ka, mo gito ang mo represent nim bali ang imong naong bali, imong image ba. So balik ta. So the avatar is a visual representation of a person. So kita visual representation na nato for use in digital context or for use na ato mga social media platforms nga ato gamiton. So to simplify everything, so ang avatar naana ang avatar para mo represent nato naana para makaingon ta nga ay mao ni si Darwin or mao ni si KD ay kakuan ni kay kuan ni. So ang avatar will represent us in different social media platforms. And that's all. Thank you. A Jungian perspective on technology. So, for Carl Jung, technology is neither good or bad. It depends on how we will use it, kung unsaon ta ni paggamit, and also our attitude towards it. Being a human or isip usa ka tawo, we have our different set of our strengths and weaknesses. Same thing na siya sa technology. Pwede na nato siya magamit sa maayo, pwede sad sa dautan. Pero based sa perspective ni Carl Jung, iyang nalantaw nga mas daghan gyud og bad o kaysa sa good ang technology. I have here an example or nakoy example ninyo sa iyang perspektibo sa technology. So, ako ni basahon ha. In general, modern man's relationship with technology is unbalanced daw kuno, resulting in dissatisfaction with work or life. It separates man from his natural ability to act in variety of ways, allowing many of his impulses to become inactive. So, sa perspective ni Carl Jung, example, ako cellphone. No? Then pagkita na ako sa different social media platforms na ay bag-o ng gawas ng mga cellphone, sumusudi ang dissatisfaction sa life. Naano ko cellphone, magamit ko ni pang duwa, magamit ko ni pang text. The same og function sa bag-o ni gawas ng cellphone, although na siguro upgrade ang camera or anything, pero ang iyang purpose is the same gihapon. So ngara mo musun ang dissatisfaction sa life nga mo ko ani dapat ngano mo handom pa mong ko ani ngano di mo masatisfy. So na mao gani na example sa na kana ganing ato i-compare ang atong kaugalingon sa uban. Ala gwapo lagi siya, ala labi ang lawas niya eh, mas bright lagi na siya nako, naman na siya na adiha nga ako man to na dapat diha. So we tend to compare ourselves to others because of technology. Pakaimon ta nga, hala, namian yung lawas, niya ako, tambo kayo. So ngara musud ang dissatisfaction sa life. Ngara musud ang dissatisfaction nga wala ta na satisfy kung unsay naa nato, wala ta nato gi-thankful sa Ginoo nga gihatagan pa ta niyang kinabuhi. Ngara musud nga because of technology daghan na tang makit-an sa especially sa TikTok, mga babae, sexy kayo ang mga babae sa TikTok. Sexy kayo ang mga babae nga naa sa TikTok. Nya dili lang sa pag-body shame ha. Example ako babae nga tambok. Nya makakita ko og babae nga sexy sa TikTok na sayo-sayo. Syempre ako confidence maapektuhan. Kay makaimon man ko nga hala. Lamian ang lawas oy. Lamian ang lawas lang mag-workout yun ko. So nga ra mo sud ang dissatisfaction sa life nga ang ato unta is magpasalamat na lang ta nga buhi pa ta nga naglihok pa ta diri sa kalibutan nga nasatisfy ta kung unsay nato kung unsay gihatag sa Ginoo. So mo na ang bad effects sa technology. Then usasan
Game transfer phenomena or GTP are involuntary phenomena manifesting as altered sensorial perceptions, automatic mental processes, actions and behavior as a result of the transfer of experience from the virtual to the real world. The most had experienced GTP more than once. Example, the Forza Horizon 4. Kana siya nga duwa pareha jud kayo sa atoang sa real life. Kana siya kay kanang duwa kay sa simulator na siya sa mga sports car. Naana or atong matawag sa tanang car kay pareha jud kayo na siya ug moduwa ka ana nga duwa kay naay clutch, naay acceleration, steering wheel o brake. As in, naanagina siya tanan gyud pareha jud kayo sa og mag-drive ka og sakyanan. Check unsa pa sports car naanagid na tanan og sa Call of Duty og moduwa kag Call of Duty makaila pug ka sa mga pusil sa grabe gyud sa tanan like pareha jud kayo sa atong kalibutan ron sa reality na tanan sa gamay nga pusil hangtod sa magkadako o sa mga gamit grabe gid tanan gyud pareha jud kayo sa atuang real world.
Politics of social media. Social media use in politics refers to the use of online social media platforms in political process and activities. Through the use of social media in election processes, global conflict, and extreme politics, diplomacy around the world has become less private and susceptible to the public perception. The internet may also change the way in which political groups and politicians conduct elections campaign, keep in touch with constituents, and forge alliances with other groups or individuals. The internet may also enable small groups with limited sources of participate into the political process. Social media affected political communication by the rise in popularity of social media in the mid-2000s, profoundly changed how political communication is affected in the United States. It allowed regular individuals, politicians, and thought leaders to publicly express their opinions too, and engage with wide networks of like-minded individuals. Social networks such as Twitter, Facebook, and Google hold the potential to alter civic engagement, thus essentially hijacking democracy by influencing individuals towards a particular way of thinking. So think before you click.
The history and science of video gameplay. Science have collected and summarized studies looking at how video games can shape our brain and behavior. Research to date suggests that playing video games can change the brain regions responsible for attention and visual-spatial skills and make them more efficient. Early prototypes of video games were developed in labs in the 1960s, but it was the Atari's release of Pong in 1972 that helped kickstart the industry. The arcade tabletop tennis game was a sensation, drawing in consumers eager to play and companies that started to produce their own knockoff version of Pong. So, video games, not only video games can give you enjoyment, it also gives you knowledge because there are games that have history lessons. For example, the Call of Duty and Battlefield, Call of Arms 2, they have a story or a campaign version of the D-Day or the Battle of Normandy, where the Allied troops fighting for the Ohama Beach, where the Allied troops versus the Axis, where this is where Allies versus the Germany forces trying to occupy the France, where there's at least 170,000 troops going through the water, fighting for territory, for in order for the troops to conquer back France. So that is one game that have history lessons. There are many games that have many history lessons too. So, and there are games that can build up knowledge with science, like for example, of Little Alchemy or Doodle God. If you don't know, those games are just point and click, but they have combination of things or ingredients, like for example of rock plus lava equals magma. So those are examples. There are many games that gives knowledge. There are also games like a driving game that where it can help you use your brain, or it's like you're just imagining that even you're playing it, it looks like you're trying to use a real car. So there are games like that. So that's all.
Transcendent virtual reality experiences. What is transcendence? Transcendence is a virtual reality environment in form of serene and magical forest that strives to provide safe mental space for people who are burdened during times of uncertainty and constant change. Transcendence is the act of rising above something to a superior state. Transcendence comes from the Latin prefix trans, meaning beyond, and the word scandare, meaning to climb. When you achieve transcendence, you have gone beyond the ordinary limitation. And my example for this is virtual reality gaming, because it is the applicable of a three-dimensional artificial environment to computer games. And you can experience a virtual reality environment and in a form of serene and magical forest in virtual reality gaming. Though many games could lift up a person who are burdened during times of uncertainty and constant change, and virtual reality gaming is one of them, because it could provide safe mental space, and while playing, you end up having lots of friends in playing games.
The theoretic quality of video games. The theoretic quality of some video games suggests theologically that the gamer himself becomes divine. Although in derivative ways, some gaming seen in such a way can therefore be described as a religious act in itself, as Wagner has already suggested. In the game, the player he acts assumes the role of an almighty creator. The player begins his divine career by achieving a promotion, man or woman, from the drowning. With your help, they will travel to some sort of promised land, where they will build a tent and procreate by forming the earth and water. The player can shape the form from the game world and support the advancement of his chosen people. In the game Child and Light, the player assumes the role of a young princess, Aurora the princess these gods, ready in a sense the underworld, redeem its inhabitation only on the resurrected. The following Easter, the Sunday eventually saves her people from certain death by drowning as in goddess, by leading them through a magical mirror to a now everlasting peaceful underworld. The player assumed the role of Artyom, a Russian survivor of a nuclear holocaust in the near future. The game is the godless universe in which the God of creation, has left humankind with confront with this educated archenemy. The player can choose to save him.